Chandrayaan 3 has reached closer to the moon. It's all set to make its soft landing on the lunar surface, but the 23rd of August, ISRO has said that it will successfully reduce the orbit of the Chandrayaan 3 mission's lander module, which was launched on the 14th of July. We will now take the next few minutes to really understand how this landing will take place. We'll try to see what went wrong the last time around and how is it that ISRO has improved the technology this time around. We'll take this conversation forward with Dr. V. Selvamurthy, and I also have with me Mr. Surendra Pal and Syed Najamul Hassan as well. But before we take our guests, I also have with me Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, who's former Chief of Integrated Defence Staff of the Western Command. Vice Admiral Sinha, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, sir. It's of course a historic moment for our country. What really is it that you have to say?
Well, Pooja ji, thank you for getting me on your show. I appreciate and namaskar to all the viewers who are going to watch this. You know, it is historic in many sense. If I recall, you know, in childhood, we used to sing that song, Chanda Mama Turke. And I think today, I am getting a sense that Chanda Mama is not all that dur, not all that far as we thought in our childhood. And it has been possible because of the technology. It is historic because India has achieved that technological know-how, where not only a rocket has gone away from the Earth's gravitational force, but it has joined the orbit of the moon. And a unit which has now the unit which is orbiting, which is the the propulsion unit, and the other one is called the Vikram. They're both orbiting at different heights.
Yes.
It becomes historic for many reasons. As I said, one is the history itself. I told you about the poem that you used to read. The second thing is it is a technological marvel. Thirdly, because we have had a failure last time in Chandrayaan 2, it was a challenge to our scientists at ISRO as to we have to get it going. The fourth important point, historic, is because now when it lands, India will be only the fourth country in the world who have this know-how and ability to get get a module landing on the surface of moon. It is also historic that we know as to what is the gravitational force on the moon and how much of percussion is required for a safe landing of the lander. So I think in many ways it also paves the way for a manned mission to moon at some point in time. Lastly, it is important because it is historic because nobody has landed on the south pole of the moon. And we will, when we land, India will become the first country possibly, though I know that Luna 25 is also orbiting and it may just land a little bit ahead of our lander Vikram. So I think that that itself is a very big achievement, and I won't be surprised if Russia has launched it, possibly because it didn't want to become the second one to land on the moon, on the south pole. So I think from many ways, our country should be very proud, should be very happy, and we are really cheering and watching with great sort of interest as to what is happening to the lander, to Vikram.
Absolutely. At the same time, Vice Admiral Sinha, what message do you have for ISRO and the team that's behind the Chandrayaan 3 mission?
First of all, that the Chief of ISRO, the Chairman, you are blessed by God to achieve this feat, and you have withstood the pressures from outside. And because you had the big support of this entire country with you, and your scientists have done a marvelous job, from all of us who are watching here, in various places in the country and outside the country. There is a lot of interest outside the country for this achievement, and we wish you lot more success, and we're looking forward to the manned flight, manned Indian flight. One day, I'm sure that you will let an Indian national go and land on the moon, that has to be or should be the next aim.
Absolutely. And sir, before we let you go, if you can just share your thoughts on how this will, how will India's stature in fact rise as a global space power after the success of Chandrayaan 3?
We have already come into the commercial side of application of space. We have been launching satellites for other countries, and also our own students who are pursuing the science of rocketry. Not only that, now we have got private companies who are who are taking the rocket assembly, buying from the Antariksh people and sending the satellites, which are useful for many applications. You have what is called the weather. You got the land survey. You got atmosphere. You got whole lot of things on which the and navigation. All these applications are dependent on the rockets, and by doing it on the moon surface, we become we are Chandrayaan 1 was the first one which actually discovered that there is water on the moon in some areas.
Yes.
And one of the reasons of choosing the South Pole is one of that quite possible that the source of water is somewhere there. If that happens, then maybe in limited way human life may be possible. Who knows? So we are really inching towards that.
Absolutely.
Now we are not the only ones who are watching this. I'm telling you, all countries, all big countries, particularly Russia, USA, and China, they are watching with great interest as to how is this soft landing has been achieved in absolute autonomous mode. We have had one failure, fair enough. जो कहते हैं कि घुड़सवार जो है वही गिरते हैं क्योंकि वो घोड़े पे चढ़े हुए हैं, जो नहीं चढ़ते हैं वो गिर ही नहीं सकते. तो हम तो घुड़सवार हैं, और we are going to be moving in this direction very, very, all thanks to our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, because after that failure, that famous picture where the ISRO chairman has, hugged him and he's got tears in his eye, and he said, not to worry, there is a next time.
Absolutely.
And he has supported the minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh, also mentioned yesterday, no dearth of money which has been spent on this, basically to raise the stature of our country, which is already on the high rise. And I think if it happens at the time when we got the chairmanship of G20, I think that the global south is going to be extremely, extremely pleased with the achievements of India.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vice Admiral Sinha, for joining us on the broadcast. Let me now quickly put our touchpads on the screens for our viewers, and we'll, of course, rope in our scientists for the next 15 minutes. We will now try to understand the differences between the Vikram lander on Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3. These are some of the basic differences that our team has put about. This graphic is getting a little bit cut, so I'm going to request our PCR to just fix the proportions so that, thank you. All right, so on Vikram lander 2, the landing velocity, we're looking at the landing velocity tolerance, we're looking at fuel, we're looking at sensors, and we're also looking at the software, solar panels, and the payloads. Let me bring in Dr. V. Selvamurthy. Dr. Selvamurthy, as far as the lander is concerned, we've been told that the last time around the landing velocity tolerance was 2 meters per second. But this time around, the landing velocity tolerance is 3 meters per second. The fuel last time was 1600 kgs, and this time it's 2250 kgs. How do these differences actually translate into a successful mission, sir?
We are all eagerly waiting for the groundbreaking moment of our landing, soft landing on the southern part of the moon. And now looking at what is the difference between the lander on the Chandrayaan 2 and the lander on Chandrayaan 3. See, always we learn by mistakes. That is how the research and development. So there is always learning. It's not a failure. Even Chandrayaan 2 was a learning curve. We learned a lot of propulsion, control, guidance, navigation, payload integration, payload separation, precision of moving to the orbit injections. So all these are learning. And unfortunately, in the last 15 minutes of terror, we encountered many unknown factors. And also, there was a software glitch which really could not help the stabilize and then do a soft landing. But we did a hard landing. We are still there. So we have a footprint now on the moon since our lander is still there. But what really is the difference? The first is the six legs on which the wheels on which it moves. This has been hardened. The robustness has been built between Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3. These legs have been hardened because when it lands, it should be able to take the impact. This is the first. The second is, as you rightly said, the landing velocity. You have built a better tolerance. In the previous, the lander, the tolerance was 2 meters per second. Now it has been enhanced to 3 meters per second. That means even if it comes at that velocity, still all the systems, subsystems, components, devices, the sensors, payloads, everything will be intact. So this is also another important thing. The landing velocity tolerance has been enhanced to 3 meters per second. Then the other thing is more fuel, because if it has to do a mid-course correction, if it finds a crater and the landing site is not a favorable site,
Okay.
you need to traverse a longer distance. So it has been equipped with more fuel. So this is another important thing so that it can also take and handle the dispersion if required. This is the third important thing. The fourth is 3 velocity vectors, X, Y, Z. This is to measure, you have laser Doppler velocity meter. So this is also very important, the system which has been added, the sensor, which will look at the redundancy to make any mid-course correction by looking at the lunar terrain and then make corrections. So these are some of the things which have been built, and also the landing spot. Earlier it was 500 by 500 meters, but now it has been given a larger tolerance, 4 kilometer to 2.5 kilometer. So the area on which it is supposed to land, the expected area, we have also, the ISRO has also made a bigger tolerance. So this is yet another important thing. Then the additional solar panels on the lander has also been put so that to have the power, the energy. So this is another feature which has been added so that even from all angles, even if it lands in a wrong direction or attitude, you will still be able to have the solar panel functioning. So more additional solar panels have been added. So these are some of the very important the features. Another one is they have tested rigorously for robustness and ruggedness by vibrations. They have done a rigorous vibration test this time. And so these all are the safety measures which we have taken, which ISRO has taken to see that the lander safely lands on a soft landing mode rather than hard landing mode which we had last time. And also the software glitches which were experienced in the Chandrayaan 2 has also been corrected, and they have built redundancy in everything. So that is why this mission, I am very confident that even though rocket science has got many complexities, many unknowns, sometimes it comes, but then this time the ISRO scientists have taken all measures to ensure that we succeed in this mission. And as rightly said by our Air Marshal, that we will be the first one. We'll make history by landing on the southern part of the moon for the first time. So this will be a historical moment for all of us. In the next about 2 days, we will be 2.5 days. We are expecting that to happen.
Okay, Mr. Surendra Pal, let me bring you into the conversation here, sir. As Mr. Sarvamurthy has explained, of course, the landing bit, we're also just looking at some of the software upgrades as far as the Vikram lander this time around is concerned. It's being called a fault-tolerant software. What does that mean, sir? When you say that, okay, this time around the technology is based on a fault-tolerant software, how do you explain that?
You asked me to respond?
Yes, Mr. Surendra Pal.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I think you did not tell as per the news, the Lunar 25 has unfortunately failed. It crashed.
We have,
So
sir.
that's one
We've covered that, of course, earlier in
bad
the
news.
day.
Now let me tell you what are the things which we have, yeah. So what are the things which we had been done on the this time Chandrayaan 3? See, last time in Chandrayaan 2, what happened for the lander is that we have got three sectors. We have got what do you call it, rough braking. Then we have got the instrumentation calibration. Then the fine braking. What mishap took place was at finer braking, and what happened is that the thrust of the engines, we had five engines, was much more. So to perform five engines, it has been reduced to four engines. Second thing, last time there was no control on the engines and thrusters. This time the slew rates have been slowed down, and there is a control on the firing. First, there were two thrusters will be fired, and they are around 800 and odd Newton thrusters. This is quite powerful because when you want to land, you are not to compensate against the gravity. You have to have a higher thrusters. Second thing is that dispersion of the controls has been increased. Earlier we had the 48 plus minus 48 Newton thrusters, which has been brought down to 90 Newton thrusters. So the dispersion on the propulsion itself has been made quite a bit. Another thing is that new instruments have been added. Like there is a hazard monitoring camera has been put, which will tell about it, what sort of hazard is there, whether one should land it or not. There is also laser Doppler velocity meter is there. There is a car band altimeter. There is also laser altimeter. So all these things will go into software. Software has been made more robust,
Okay.
and after the rough braking, we will go for absolute calibration, absolute navigation, and absolute calibration of the instruments. So that will be calibrated with respect to the available pictures which have been stored inside the lander and the pictures which are there. So from there, last thing which I don't know, you may ask to others also, that it has got a capability of hovering, like a helicopter hovers. So suppose if it's not able to land on a proper, it can go to the another place. Then another thing is, suppose if we are not able to land now, we can go to the one orbit, maybe somewhere else we'll land. We may not get 14 days of lunar, sun day on the lunar, but yes, we will be able to land. So all these precautions are taken care. There are many details are there. Maybe you would like to ask the next panelist. Otherwise, I can give you much more than that, whatsoever is needed. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll just also quickly bring in Mr. Syed Najmul Hassan, and while I do that, I'm also going to just play out a quick video. We'll just put out a courtesy please to NASA. I'm taking this video from there. This is of the Apollo 11 mission. Some of the moments before the landing. You can see, viewers, if we can let's just take me off screen so that people can see more clearly. So this is a montage, in fact, that was created by NASA of the Apollo 11 mission, and I'm just going to fast forward a bit to the parts where, of course, the actual landing did take place. So these were some of the visuals that were put out by NASA, and in just a moment you'll actually see the landing happening. This is the moment where the Apollo 11 mission came really close, of course, to the moon, and this was just moments before the landing. So this is, of course, the surface of the moon as seen, and we just, of course, I'll just take you a bit forward right here. If we can just, of course, see when the actual, this is the actual landing, viewers. Just wait a second, this is the actual landing that is now taking place. So you see the Apollo 11 mission of the US making its landing on the moon. There you have it. That was it. Of course, there was no big the eagle has landed. That's what they said. The eagle has landed. So that was a successful landing right there. So Mr. Syed Najmul, I'd just like to understand from you, sir, if you can just explain to our viewers what sort of a landing. I'm assuming this was also a soft landing of the Apollo 11 mission.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on the show. It's a great moment of national pride that India is going to be very successful at this attempt. Like it has been echoed by others, that the failure, what happened in Chandrayaan 2, we should not take it as failure because you build through mistakes, you learn. That's how science is done. So, when we fail, it's a way of learning what is going wrong, and the idea is to put things together and be successful next time. And India's ISRO has been extremely successful in launching satellites. Our PSLVs are extremely successful, and the cheapest launch vehicle which we offer to other countries is in India. And the beauty is the whole technology has been indigenously built by Indians. It's Indian technology. We have not borrowed anything from someone, and in a very short period, we have done extremely well. So coming to this time, I'm sure we'll be successful, and the details have been shared. Dr. Salvamurthy and Dr. Surendra Pal.
Yes,
sir,
we're just trying to understand a soft landing, sir. If you can just, help our viewers understand that. I'm over and over again playing this video of the Apollo 11 mission. And I'm assuming that our landing, of course, is expected to be similar.
Exactly. So the difficulty of landing on moon, as you realize, is one that its gravitational field is much less, and hence it doesn't have an atmosphere. And if there was an atmosphere, then the atmosphere itself gives an upthrust, and it helps in the softer landing. While on the moon, you have to use other techniques for doing that. You have to use these thrust motors, which will, as it descends, it has to reduce the rate of descent so that it lands without having an impact on it. So the soft landing would be where our lander would land without much of a jerk, so that it doesn't ruin the equipment and the instruments which are there. And this will be achieved because we have overcome the various things which have already been said, why we expect it to be successful this time. And basically, soft landing is where it's not going to be a free fall like it was designed to be in Chandrayaan 1, but it's going to land very softly without harming the whole system. And this is in place because we have decided for a bigger landing zone where there are cameras which will keep correcting if it's not going to the right location. The southern pole has many craters, the terrain is very difficult, and like it has been said that it's an interesting area to be landing at because we expect to find frozen water there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I thank on that note.
Let me just supplement by giving a
Yes,
small
sir.
analogy. When a helicopter lands, we have a soft landing. When you have to, there is a soft landing. It could be hard landing, or it could be a crash landing. So there are three types of landing there. So when you do soft landing, particularly for human flights like Gaganyaan, which we are going to have, we need to have a very soft landing so that the people inside are safe, as well as the equipment, instruments, sensors, payloads, which are attached to the spacecraft or the lander has to be safe. So you need to have a very smooth, soft landing so that there is no damage to the lander. There is no damage to all the payloads which is inside, like rover with its payload, lander with its payload. They should all function properly. So soft landing is a process by which you take this lander very safely, smoothly, in such a way that it doesn't cause any damage either to the lander or to the rover and the other sensors attached to that. That's what is
Okay.
the.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.